Hello everyone. We are the reading Raptors of Shanti Niketan Indian School. I am Mehak and here I am with one more story for you today. I hope you're enjoying our stories, children. So here, let's see the story of today. Today, we are going to read the story of the first well. Did you ever think how the wells were created? Were they natural or were they man-made? Let's get to the answers by the end of the story. So read through carefully and read with me. But before that, let's start to read the words that we're going to read in the story. Let's learn to pronounce these words. As I read the words, you repeat after me. Anxious, barren, disaster, determined, enormous, gazed, dwindled, swiftly, vanished, sprouted. Now let's read the story. And I start reading. You can repeat the story after me. There once was a small kingdom around a lake. One very hot summer, it did not rain and the lake dried up. People grew anxious and went to the king. It has not rained for so long. Our fields are barren, said the farmers. There are no fish to catch. How shall we earn a living? Asked the fishermen. Save us from the disaster, good king, urged the women as their children cried with thirst. The king sent his 4 generals in all directions to look for water. The first general went east, towards the sunrise. The second went south, to the dust and heat. The third went west, where the sun sets, and the fourth followed the north star. They searched day and night and day, high and low. They searched everywhere, but in vain. 3 of the generals returned empty handed, but the general who had gone north was determined not to fail his king. At last he reached a cold mountain village. As he sat at the foot of the mountain, an old woman came by and sat next to him. The general pointed at the horizon and said, I belong to a beautiful kingdom where it has not rained for a whole year. Can you help me find water? The woman motioned the general to follow her up the mountain and into a cave. We have no water in our country either, she said. Then, pointing to the icicle in the cave, she continued, "We call this ice. Take some, and your kingdom will never go thirsty again." The general broke off a huge piece, loaded it onto his horse cart, and rushed back home. By the time he reached the court, the enormous icicle had melted into a small lump of ice. Nobody in the court had ever seen ice, so everybody gazed at it with wonder. "This must be a water seed," one of the ministers exclaimed suddenly. The king ordered the water seed to be sowed immediately. While the farmers dug a hole, the lump dwindled in the sun. They swiftly placed the seed in the hole, but before they could cover it up, it had vanished. The farmers there grew confused and worried. They dug deeper and deeper into the earth all night long, looking for the mysterious seed. At the break of dawn, the king found the farmers fast asleep around a hole. Curious, he peeped in and cried out in amazement, "Wake up, my worthy men! The water seed has sprouted. There's water in the hole." This is how the first well was created. I hope you enjoyed the story and got the answer how the first well was created. Now let's take the look at the words that we learned in the story. Anxious, barren, disaster, determined, enormous, gazed, dwindled, swiftly, vanished, sprouted. Let's learn the meaning of these words. Now, children, let's learn about the meanings of the words we learned in the story. As I read the meanings in the words, you can repeat after me. Anxious, afraid or nervous about what may happen. You remember how people grew anxious about what will happen if there is no water? Barren, too poor to produce much or any vegetation. Disaster, great harm, damage, or serious difficulty. Determined, not weak or uncertain. Enormous, very large in size. Gazed, to look at someone or something for a long time. Dwindled, to become smaller in size or few in number. Here in the story, the lump of ice dwindled in the sun swiftly at a high speed, vanished, disappear in a sudden and mysterious way, sprouted, start to grow or spring up. Now let's dissect our words and learn the synonyms of some words. Anxious, and the synonym of anxious is eager, and the second synonym is apprehensive. The next word is barren, unfruitful, and the other synonym is unproductive. There may be several more synonyms of the same words. The next word is disaster, determined, and enormous. Children, try finding out the synonyms of these words on your own. Now let's learn the antonyms or opposites of some words. Gazed, blinked, peeped, dwindled, increase, flourish, swiftly, vanished, and sprouted. Children, for the words swiftly, vanished, and sprouted, find the antonyms for these words on your own. Now let's come to the part of sentence creation. I hope you remember what do we do in the part of sentence creation? Yes, we frame sentences of the words. Let's take the first word, that is anxious. In the story, you remember, people grew anxious and went to the king. So what comes to your mind when you think of the word anxious? Take a look at this sentence. He seemed anxious about his result. Do you get anxious when your results are to be declared? Okay, the next word is barren. Farmers worked hard to make the barren land fertile. A few more words are there like disaster, determined, enormous, gazed, dwindled, swiftly, vanished, sprouted. As an assignment, you will be creating the sentence of these words. And the important step to remember is recall the meaning of the words before you frame the sentences. And do you remember, your sentences should be meaningful. All the best, children. Now, let me ask you a few questions to check whether you understood the story or not. So, here the first question is, what was the decision of the king in regards to the problem? Now, what was the problem the people were facing? Can you recall the story? And what is the decision the king gave? Let me frame the answer for this one. The king decided to send his 4 generals in all directions to look for water. Now, when you have to frame the answer of a question, you need to recall the story, Think about what happened, frame the words correctly, and write down your answers. Now let's read a few more questions that you will be finding answers for. Explain the context of the beautiful kingdom turned to a barren land. Your kingdom will never go thirsty again. Justify. What is the moral of the story? The first well. Now, if you have understood the story properly, you just need to recall this story and you will have all the answers for these questions. Now, think about it and start writing them in your notebooks. All the best, children. Have a great time ahead. Thank you.